Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have the next tank for you in the American line up from the Sherman. It's the Tier 6 Chaffee, and as always we have a complete guide for you, and we will start as always with the tech spec, and we will look at blitzhanger.com for that. The Chaffee is named after Adna Romanza Chaffee, who was a Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army and eventually became the Commander-in-Chief between 1904 and 1906. Now, with regard to the tank itself, we're going from a medium tank to a light tank, and that's significant because it's a big change, so you need to be prepared. If you haven't played light tanks before, if you're just going through this line for the first time, it's going to be a big change moving from a medium to a light tank. The good news is that this is a good light tank. But what I suggest you do is, if you haven't played light tanks before, is that you watch the light tank guide on channel, because light tanks are very different to mediums. I would run Coca-Cola. It gives you a view range of 290.4 meters, and this is excellent at Tier 6. And the view range is quite important because one of the key roles of a light tank is spotting, so therefore you want to optimize your view range. You have two gun options, both 76mm, but the top gun has an extra 100 plus DPM. And it also has a better reload, 4.8 seconds if you use gun rammer, which I recommend you do. I would use gun rammer, supercharge, and I would also use a vertical stabilizer because you're going to fire a lot when you're moving. 135mm of pen with AP, 185 with APCR, and HE only gives you 20mm of pen, so you're not going to pen much with that, so you just need to load up 1 or 2, maybe 3 rounds max of that. Muzzle velocity is 975 meters per second, which goes up to 1268 meters per second with supercharge. Therefore I would run supercharge, and as I said, I would also run vertical stabilizer because in a light tank you're going to be firing when you're moving. So therefore vertical stabilizer is more important than it is perhaps with any other type of tank. Now I did mention that there's a big difference between light and medium tanks, but they do share some characteristics which we'll discuss later on. This tank, like many American tanks, has great gun depression, 10 degrees of gun depression, 15 degrees of elevation, and that gives you great gun alignment. So basically getting your barrel aligned with your target is significantly easier with American tanks, and the Chaffee is no exception. It's fast, it does 56 kilometers per hour, 21 reverse, and therefore it's an agile tank, very good brawler, very good at circle of death, as you would expect from a light tank. And it's poor power to weight ratio though, which is unusual for light tanks, but is quite common in American tanks. So therefore, like the American medium tanks, it suffers from the same problem. Now, one advantage is that it has extra concealment, really excellent concealment. So the enemy needs to get into, if an enemy tank with 285 meters of view range needs to get in within 214 meters of you to spot you if you're not firing or not moving. That is significant. It means that this tank can stay hidden really well on the map, and that is a key part of a light tank's armory. It also means that if you use light, for example, light cover, you can stay unspotted for a significant amount of the game. And this is important because a part of a light tank's role is to get out there, it's to use its speed and its concealment and its view range numbers to get out onto the flanks and spot the enemy. You can also go up to middle, it depends on the map you're on, but to get out there and to spot the enemy early, reload those positions back to your teammates, and then again you gain a significant advantage for your team over the enemy. You don't always necessarily need to fire when you spot the enemy. You can spot the enemy up, relay their positions back, and then get the hell out of dodge. You know, there is no shame in doing that with a medium tank, or sorry, light tank, especially if you're going to take fire. If you fire off a round and get spotted, so why do that? Your job is really a scout. You are to get out there and spot up the enemy, relay those positions back to your teammates. So therefore, in terms of tactics, this is a tank that can be played as a classic light tank. Get out spotting, scouting, and then later on in the game using your speed to come in behind the enemy and clear off the enemy tanks, flanking maneuvers, etc. All of this is explained in the light tank guide that we have on channel here. It goes into a lot of detail about the role of a light tank and how you should play it. So if you haven't watched that, I would recommend you do so before you play this tank, because this tank has no armor. Everything's going to pen you. You can take HE rounds to beat the band in this thing, and you can lose half your hit points with one round, even from a tier 6 tank. If you're up tiered, you could be one-shotted by an ISU or something like that, so you know, you need to be very careful. Now I'm going to have a look at some gameplay here. This is Fortress Bear and its supremacy game. So I quickly check the setup, look at the reds list and my own green list, and I decide that normally I would go to the hill between B and A and spot, but I haven't checked the setup. I decide that I'm going to go to the ruins towards C. I'm going to pop up there, use my superior view range and see if I can spot the enemy. It's also a fairly safe position to spot from because you've got cover on both the right and left. And there's some cover in front as well, and if the enemy comes in to see, you can put some damage in, but it's a good place to see if you can spot. So I'm moving out here. Basically there's sensors on the front of the tank, so therefore when you move out from cover, those sensors then can spot the enemy should the enemy come within your view range. As I said, the view range on this tank is excellent, and also the fact that it has those great concealment numbers means that you can remain unspotted. Now I've been spotted up here, I think by the Cheeto opposite me as a medium tank that has good view range too. Now you can see here I am just using my additional muzzle velocity from supercharged to put rounds into that KV2. Since that is one of the most dangerous tanks on the battlefield for me in a light tank. He can, in theory, one-shot me, so therefore I'm going to be very happy when he's removed from the game. Now, I was doing a little bit of sniping there. We also have a sniping guide on channel 2, and there's a significant difference between sniping and camping. Sniping is a perfectly legitimate thing to do, and if you're putting damage into the enemy, then sniping is a very, very good thing to do, and light tanks are very good snipers because of that view range and concealment numbers. However, once you run out of targets, sniping becomes camping. Therefore, the thing to do is to relocate. That's why you have a fast, mobile tank with a good reload and a good gun. And there you saw I relocated, and I'm able to put in some significant damage and clear off an enemy tank. Now I'm going to relocate again, opening up fields of fire onto the KV2 and the Cheeto. Put one round into the Cheeto. KV2 comes up. I'm going to put a round into him as well. I really want to clear off him, but now there's a chance to remove one gun from the game. Cheeto gone. KV2 with his aim time, there's no way that if I keep moving he's going to get a shot on me, and as he moves into position to try to take me on, he gets smashed by my allies. Now I know that the MT25 is out here somewhere, so I decide to go and have a look for him. I've maintained my hit points, so I'm more than happy to get into a hit point trading thing with him. And there we are, spotted him up. Take a round for him, but I'm just going to go for it. I actually sense there's probably a mastery badge on here given the amount of damage I've done, and I decided just to go for it. Now you saw here, I'm going to slow that down so we can have a look at it again. I ram a light tank side on, and I actually take as much damage as I do. So just remember, that's another thing about a light tank, which is significantly different to a medium tank. If I'd hit him side on with the front of my medium tank, I might have taken some damage, but nothing like the damage he would have taken. But when you hit a tank even front on with a light tank, you sustain a lot of damage. Now I didn't care in that instance because he's the last tank on that team. I was chasing the mastery badge, which I then got. But please note that ramming anything really in the light tank can be dangerous, and Chaffee is particularly vulnerable as it doesn't really have any armor at all. Some of the French light tanks have a little bit of armor on the front that allow you to ram, particularly if you're ramming a Rim Borsig or something like that. The Chaffee doesn't, you saw there, so just be careful. You have the speed, and therefore you're often tempted to ram tanks. It is not a good idea in this, particularly at the start of a game. At the end of the game there, when I'm perfectly happy to hit point trade, it's okay. Plus I conserve my hit points, it's not important. But at the start of the game, don't do it. And if you hit something with any sort of armor, you're going to do a lot of damage to yourself and very little to the other tank. So just be aware of that, particularly for brawling and face-hugging situations. So So there we go, a good game in the Chaffee. I think kind of illustrated its key points, its advantages, and also some of its disadvantages. So let's have a recap. This is a good light tank, and it's perfect to practice light tank tactics in for higher tiers. Those skills will be transferable. But it is a big jump moving to a light tank from medium tank, so watch the light tank guide, please. Light tanks are very difficult to play. And as the SAS say, if you train hard, you fight easy, but if you train easy, you fight hard. So prepare yourself before you play the Chaffee. If you haven't played light tanks before, watch the light tank guide on channel. Use the top gun, load up APCR, you'll need that if you're up tiered. 4.2 reload on the top gun is great. You do 160 damage per round, 200 max roll. Poor power to weight ratio, be aware of that. You are slow from a stop start, so be aware of that if you're trying to get out of sticky situations. Traverse is poor in this tank too, so you need to move your tracks to offset this. So when you're turning the turret, also move your tracks, that will offset that. Gun alignment is great, so utilize that, and also utilize the gun depression. Speed, view range, and concealment are the major assets of this tank. They are winning common, so use those tools. Being up-tiered is less of a problem for light tanks as it is. I mean, this is not great when it's up-tiered, but it's less of a problem than it is with medium tank, because your job is to spot relay positions to your teammates and to stay out of trouble, and they're pretty much the same tactics you need to do when you're up tiered, so kind of stay out of trouble and you should be okay even when you're up tiered, but you will need APCR. Cheers much, thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful, I hope you found it enjoyable, and I guess all remains for me to say is pants off.